The December air bit sharply as I stood before the Ashworth Foundation's annual charity gala, my invitation card heavy in my hand. Through the ornate windows of the Grand Plaza Hotel, I could see my stepfamily holding court, the Ashworths, one of the city's oldest respectable families. "Miss Lynn," Marcus, my assistant, texted. "The papers are signed. Announcement in 45 minutes. I smiled, touching the jade pendant my mother had left me, her only valuable possession. Tonight, Diana Lynn, the gold-digging maid's daughter, would become more than just a footnote in the Ashworth family history. "Hey!" A sharp voice cut through my thoughts. "Service entrance is around back." My stepbrother Thomas stood at the main entrance, his inherited arrogance wrapped in a custom tuxedo. Behind him, his sister Elizabeth smirked, champagne glass already in hand. "I have an invitation," I said quietly, holding up the card. Thomas snatched it, his lips curling. "Obviously fake. Security. Is there a problem?" My stepfather, Richard Ashworth III, appeared, looking down his nose at me exactly as he had when my mother worked as their housekeeper. "Diana crashed the gala," Elizabeth announced with mock concern. "So embarrassing." Richard's face darkened. "Your mother may have trapped me into marriage before her convenient death, but that doesn't make you an Ashworth. Use the back door. Where you belong." 5 years ago such casual cruelty would have broken me. But that was before I'd built Lynn Global Ventures, before I'd systematically acquired their company's debt, before I'd orchestrated the most elegant hostile takeover the business world had seen this year. "Of course," I smiled, noting how my calm unnerved them. "The back door." As I walked around the building, I heard Elizabeth's carrying whisper, "Can you believe she thought she could just walk in the front? Like she's actually somebody." If they'd paid attention to anything beyond their social circle, they might have noticed that Lynn Global Ventures had been buying up shares of Ashworth Industries for months. That their major contracts were now controlled by my shell companies. That their prestigious family business was already mine. The service entrance was familiar. I'd used it often enough as a teenager, bringing tea to my mother as she worked. The staff entrance card still worked. They'd never bothered to update the security systems. "Miss Lynn," Marcus appeared silently beside me, tablet in hand. "Everything's in place. The board members are all here." I straightened my Chanel dress. Not that the Ashworths would recognize its subtle elegance. "The shareholders?" 75% represented. More than enough to ratify the takeover. "Perfect." I touched my mother's pendant again, remembering her words. "Patience, little dragon. Let them think they're the tigers until it's time to show your claws." The kitchen staff recognized me, their smiles genuine. I'd made sure my first acts as secret owner included raising their wages and improving their benefits. Unlike the Ashworths, I remembered what it was like to serve rather than be served. "Through here, Miss Lynn," Carlos, the head waiter, guided me to a hidden staff staircase. "It leads directly to the mezzanine." The mezzanine overlooked the grand ballroom where the gala was in full swing. Below, I could see Richard holding forth to his sycophants, probably bragging about Ashworth Industries' latest acquisition, a deal I'd actually orchestrated through one of my subsidiaries. Thomas was at the bar, already drunk enough to be pawing at a clearly uncomfortable debutante. Elizabeth flitted between social groups, spreading what she called necessary gossip about anyone she saw as competition. "It's time," Marcus murmured, checking his watch. The chairman of the board took the stage, tapping his glass for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special announcement regarding the future of Ashworth Industries." Richard moved forward, clearly expecting another chance to bask in his imagined success. "As you know," the chairman continued, "our company has undergone significant changes this year. Today, I'm pleased to announce our new chief executive officer." The crowd murmured expectantly. Thomas straightened his tie, probably assuming his father had finally deemed him worthy of leadership. "Please welcome the CEO of Lynn Global Ventures and new owner of Ashworth Industries, Diana Lynn." The sound of Thomas's champagne glass shattering on the marble floor was oddly satisfying. I emerged from the shadows of the mezzanine, descending the grand staircase as cameras flashed. Elizabeth's mouth hung open, her own drink forgotten. And Richard's face had gone from red to white to a shade I'd never seen before. "Thank you, Chairman Chin," I said into the sudden silence. I'm looking forward to leading Ashworth Industries into a more inclusive future." The crowd burst into applause. The business world loved a good power play, and this one had been masterful. Through the sea of approval, I watched my stepfamily's perfect world crumble. "This is impossible," Richard stammered as I reached the floor. "You're nothing. Nobody. Just the maid's daughter." I smiled, channeling years of patience into this moment. "Actually, stepfather dear, I'm your new boss." The Grand Plaza's ballroom crackled with tension as my stepfamily struggled to process what had just happened. Elizabeth's mascara was starting to run as she frantically texted, probably trying to get their family lawyer. Thomas had backed into a corner, his usual swagger replaced by something close to fear. "Marcus," I nodded to my assistant, who began distributing folders to the board members. "Shall we discuss the future of Ashworth Industries?" "You can't do this," Richard sputtered, his perfect composure finally cracking. "The board would never." "Already did," Chairman Chin interrupted, holding up the signed documents. "Unanimously, I might add. Lin Global's offer was impossible to refuse." I smiled, remembering all the late nights spent crafting that offer. While my stepfamily attended galas and yacht parties, I'd been building an empire they were too arrogant to notice. "The company bylaws," Elizabeth started, her voice shrill. "Article 7, Section 3, I quoted smoothly. Major ownership changes must be approved by 75% of shareholders." I paused, enjoying their confusion. "Would you like to know who's been buying your shares through shell companies for the past 2 years? Thomas lunged forward, wine-soaked breath betraying how much he'd already drunk. "This is some kind of trick. You're just a..." "Just what?" I cut him off. "The maid's daughter? The girl you made serve drinks at your parties? Or maybe," I pulled out another document, "the graduate who built a billion-dollar company while you were wasting daddy's money?" Marcus stepped forward with more papers, detailed reports of Ashworth Industries' decline under Richard's leadership. The questionable contracts, the nepotistic hiring practices, the systematic discrimination that had become the company's unofficial policy. "Your father," I addressed Richard directly, "built this company on innovation and merit. You turned it into your personal country club. How dare you mention my father?" Richard's face purpled. "You're not worthy to speak his name." "Actually," Chairman Chin interjected, "Howard Ashworth Sr. would have approved. He believed in earning success, not inheriting it." He nodded to me respectfully. "Something Ms. Lin clearly understands." The crowd of socialites and business leaders had formed a circle around us, hungry for drama. They'd attended expecting another boring charity gala, but instead got front-row seats to a corporate coup. "The numbers don't lie," I continued as Marcus displayed the financial projections on the ballroom screens. "Under your leadership, Ashworth Industries has lost 40% of its market share. Your technological division is 3 generations behind. Your best talent is leaving for competitors." Elizabeth stepped forward, attempting to salvage some dignity. "And I suppose you think you can do better? You've never even run a Fortune 500 company?" I finished for her. "Lin Global Ventures passed that benchmark last year. Not that you'd know, since you never bothered to read any business news that didn't mention your name." The whispers around us grew louder as recognition dawned. Lin Global's meteoric rise had been business news for months, but the Ashworths had been too absorbed in their social circle to notice. "Your mother," Richard's voice dripped with contempt, "was just a servant who trapped me into marriage. You're nothing but a reminder of my worst mistake." The room went silent. Even the society vultures knew he'd gone too far. I stepped closer, my voice carrying in the quiet. "My mother was a brilliant woman who made one mistake, believing you could change. She worked herself to death keeping your house, raising your spoiled children, trying to earn a place in your world." My hand touched the jade pendant, the one piece of jewelry my mother had kept from her successful life in China before meeting Richard. "But she taught me something valuable. True power isn't inherited, it's earned." Marcus handed me another folder, the new organizational chart for Ashworth Industries. "Your positions have been adjusted." "Adjusted?" Thomas spluttered. "You can't fire us. We're Ashworths." "Actually," I smiled, "I can. The board has already approved a complete restructuring. But don't worry, I believe in giving people chances they don't deserve." The weeks following what the business press dubbed the Ashworth acquisition transformed both the company and my stepfamily's carefully constructed world. The marble halls of Ashworth Industries headquarters, once filled with nepotistic yes-men, now buzzed with actual innovation and merit-based advancement. I sat in what used to be Richard's ostentatious office, now converted into a modern command center. The mahogany-paneled walls had been replaced with smart glass, his hunting trophies exchanged for digital displays showing real-time company operations. "Miss Lynn," Marcus entered with his usual efficiency, "the quarterly reports are ready." And he hesitated. "Elizabeth is here again." "Third time this week," I noted, reviewing data showing our stock price had risen 30% since the takeover. "Still demanding her trust fund access." "Actually," Marcus's lips twitched slightly, "she's asking about the marketing trainee position." I closed the report, remembering my mother's words from years ago. Success without compassion is just another form of failure. She'd said that even after one of Richard's particularly cruel dismissals. "Send her in." Elizabeth entered, her designer outfit notably less flashy than at the gala. The past weeks had stripped away some of her arrogance, leaving something almost resembling humanity. "Diana," she started, then stopped, clearly struggling with the new dynamic. I've been reviewing the position requirements. And I realize I'm not qualified for my old job," she admitted, handing me a detailed analysis she'd prepared. "But I've identified several areas where our social media presence could improve." I reviewed her work, genuinely impressed by the effort. "This is good, Elizabeth. Shri good. Why didn't you put this kind of thought into your work before?" She sank into a chair, her carefully maintained facade cracking. "Because I never had to. Daddy gave me the position, so I just coasted." She met my eyes for the first time since the takeover. "Like you never coasted even when we made you serve at our parties." "Every service job was a lesson," I replied. "In humility, in business operations, in human nature. Especially in human nature." My phone buzzed, Thomas requesting another meeting. He'd been alternating between threats and awkward attempts at reconciliation since discovering his credit cards were now restricted. "Have you talked to your brother lately?" I asked Elizabeth. "He's struggling," she admitted. "The entry-level position you offered is more than his qualifications deserve," I finished. "The HR audit found enough harassment complaints to justify blacklisting him completely." "Then why didn't you?" I walked to the window, looking down at the city where my mother had arrived as an ambitious young businesswoman before meeting Richard. "Because despite everything, your family. Not the family I wanted, but the family I have. And unlike your father, I understand the difference between justice and vengeance." Marcus appeared with more reports, the latest innovations from our newly revamped R&D department, freed from Richard's outdated restrictions. "The tech division presentation is ready." And Mr. Ashworth left another message about the family estate. "Ah yes, the estate, Richard's pride and joy, now under company ownership. Send him the new living arrangement terms. He can stay, but under proper lease agreements." Elizabeth studied me thoughtfully. "You're not destroying father's legacy like he feared. You're saving it." "I learned more from your father's failures than his successes," I replied. "Every time he called me worthless, I worked harder. Every time he flaunted his inherited position, I built something earned." My phone buzzed again, the board requesting an emergency session. But this time it was good news. Our latest innovation patent had been approved, pushing Ashworth Industries to the forefront of green technology. "Did you know," I told Elizabeth, "that your grandfather kept journals? His original vision for this company wasn't about social status or family prestige. It was about innovation, merit, and actual value." "I never read them," she admitted. "I was too busy trying to be what father wanted." "Well," I slid a folder across the desk, "here's your chance to be something better. The trainee position is yours if you want it. Same salary as everyone else at that level, same opportunities for advancement based on merit." She picked up the contract, her hands steady now. "And if I succeed? Then you'll advance. Just like anyone else." I gestured to the digital walls displaying our global operations. "Look at what we've accomplished in just weeks. Real innovation, real growth, real respect." Marcus brought in the latest employee satisfaction surveys, Up 60% since the restructuring. Turns out people prefer working for a company that values competence over connections. Miss Lynn, he announced, your stepfather's here. With his lawyers. I smiled, remembering all the times Richard had used legal threats to maintain control. Show them in. Elizabeth, stay if you'd like. This should be educational for your new position. Richard burst in, flanked by expensive attorneys. But before he could speak, I held up my hand. Before you waste their retainer, you should know that every decision I've made is legally bulletproof. I nodded to the digital displays. And more importantly, demonstrably good for the company. Richard's face went through several colors as he processed both my words and Elizabeth's presence. You're working for her now? No, father, she replied quietly. I'm working for myself. For the first time. I pulled up our latest performance metrics. The company you treated like a personal playground is becoming something better. Something your father would have been proud of. You're just... Richard started, then stopped, finally seeing the reality before him. Just what? I asked softly. The maid's daughter? The girl you made use the service entrance? Or the CEO who saved your father's legacy? His lawyers shifted uncomfortably as the displays showed more data, the company's transformation evident in every metric. The annual shareholders meeting is next week, I continued. You're welcome to attend as a minority shareholder. Or you can waste more money on legal challenges that won't succeed. Your choice. Richard's lawyers exchanged glances, clearly realizing their position was weaker than he'd led them to believe. He's right, Mr. Ashworth, one finally said. The takeover was completely legal. And given the company's performance since. Get out, Richard growled at them. Once they'd left, he turned to me. Why didn't you tell us? About Lynn Global? About any of it? Would you have listened? I asked simply. Or would you have tried to steal it like you tried to steal my mother's dignity? The truth hung heavy in the air between us. We all knew the answer. The service entrance is still there, I said finally, unable to resist the poetic justice. If you'd prefer to use it. He stared at me for a long moment, seeing perhaps for the first time not the maid's daughter he'd dismissed, but the leader I'd become. I'll use the front door, he said quietly before walking out. Elizabeth watched him go, then turned to me. Will he ever accept this?